Welcome to this video on subtracting polynomials. By the end of this video, you should be able to identify like terms, combine like terms, and use subtraction to find the difference of polynomial expressions. All right, so before we begin our notes, I want to remind you some rules when we're subtracting integers and negative signs. This will become real important as we move forward with subtraction. So our first example here is 5 minus a negative 3. Technically, what you're doing is this is a negative 1 right here. Okay, so you're saying 5 and then negative 1 times negative 3. So you have a negative negative, which makes that a positive 3. What is 5 plus 3? Is 8. All right, let's try that again. Negative 6 minus 2 more is what this really says. So if you're at negative 6 and you go 2 more negative, that's going to equal negative 8. Okay, so the same thing's going to happen here that happened in the first one. When you end up with 2 negatives like this, that's going to turn into a positive. So we have negative 4 plus 8, and negative 4 plus 8 equals 4. All right, now let's try subtracting. So when we want to subtract our polynomials, what we will need to do is we will need to distribute our negative sign, kind of like what we were talking about here. This is really negative 1 times negative 3, and that's why it's positive. Same as here. This was negative 1 times negative 8, making it positive 8. You've got to distribute your negative sign, and then you're going to combine your like terms. And as always, when we have these polynomials, you want to make sure you write your final answer in standard form. So let's kind of show what that means. So I have a binomial, this is 2 terms, minus, now notice how there's a parenthesis here, and it ends here. It means minusing the entire binomial. So I want you to think of this. What's really happening right here, there is a negative 1 that has to be distributed through to both terms in that second parentheses. So nothing is happening to the first parentheses because technically there's a positive 1 here that would be distributed, and distributing a positive 1 doesn't change anything. So this is 3x minus 2. Just bringing that down. Now, I have negative 1 times 4x gives me negative 4x. Then I have negative 1 times positive 9 gives me negative 9. Now I've distributed the negative sign, which is the first thing that I was saying up here that needs to happen. Now we need to combine like terms. So let's look. I've got a 3x minus 4x gives me negative x. If it makes you feel better, you can stick the 1 right there, but you don't have to have it. And then I have negative 2 minus 9 for negative 11. So when I look at this, am I in standard form? This is my only variable, so it would go first. It's got actually a degree of 1, and then my constant. So this is my final answer, negative x minus 11. All right, we're going to try it again. Remember, when you have a negative going through, it's going to change the sign of what's ever there. Okay, and if you're multiplying, then you got to make sure you do the multiplying. So when I'm looking, there's a whole bunch of things that are happening in the second example. So when I look at this first one, I see the parentheses, and I see that technically there's a 1 out here. Well, 1 times this doesn't change it, so it's just going to stay same. 8x squared plus 7x. Okay, so I'm good there. I'm going to kind of ignore this for right now. All right. Then, look, I've got a negative 2 right here and this parentheses. That means we need to take the negative 2 and distribute it. Negative 2 times 4x squared will be negative 8x squared. Then I have negative 2 times negative 3. Look at that. We got negative negative, so that becomes positive 6. And then the parenthesis ends. That means you're done distributing. So we actually just finished that part of it. And when I look at what's next, I don't have any distributing or anything. I'm just going to bring these guys down because there's nothing for me to do with them at this moment. Okay, I distribute the negative, that negative 2 right there. Now we need to combine like terms. So let me look. I've got 8x squared. I'm looking for, oh, there's a minus 8x squared. And that's all the x squared. So what is 8x squared minus 8x squared? That would be 0. When they cancel out to 0, we're not even going to list them at this point. We don't want to put 0 into our final answer. So they just canceled out. They're gone. So then I'm going to look. I have a positive 7x. I got a negative 5x. 7x minus 5x is 2x. And then 6 minus 9 is negative 3. So when I subtract like they're asking you to do, that's my final answer, 2x minus 3. Okay, hopefully we're starting to kind of get a little feel for it. Let's take a look here at number 6. I have this 8. It's got nothing going on. I'm just going to bring it down. Then I see a negative. Remember, that's really a negative 1. And we want it to distribute to the whole parenthesis that it comes to. So we're going to distribute to each one of these terms. So we have negative 1 times d squared gives you negative d squared. Then I have negative 1 times negative d. It's a negative negative, so it becomes positive d. Then I have negative 1 times negative 10 becomes positive 10. Now, let's just take a look. Do we have any like terms? I see I have a positive 8 and a positive 10 for 18. I have a negative d squared that doesn't match with anything else. And then I have a positive d that doesn't match with anything else. Your last step is to look for standard form. Largest exponent to smallest. The largest exponent on a variable is right here in the middle with negative d squared. The next biggest is d to the first. That's a positive, so positive d. And then that's a positive 18. That is your final answer on that one. Okay, so we took the negative sign and distributed into the parentheses that it followed. All right, we're going to try this again. This is the longest one. There's a whole lot going on, so let's just kind of start at the left and work our way across. 6x has nothing multiplying to it or anything, so we're just going to bring down 6x. Now, I have a negative 3 multiplying to a parenthesis. That means distribute it. Negative 3 times 6x is negative 18x. Negative 3 times 21 is negative 63. 21 times 3 is 63, and it's a negative because it was a negative times a positive. I hit the end of the parenthesis. Okay, that means I stopped distributing. So I'm going to bring myself across, and now I have a positive 4 next to a parenthesis. We have more distribution that has to happen. That positive 4 has to multiply to both things inside that parenthesis. So I have 4 times 30, which is a positive 120. I have 4 times 2x squared, which will be 8x squared. I reached the end of the parentheses, so I'm done distributing there. So I'm just going to keep sliding across. Now I have a negative sign next to a parenthesis. Remember, that's really a negative 1 that you're going to distribute through. So I have negative 1 times 2x squared for negative 2x squared. Negative 1 times negative 51 is positive 51. Whew! That was a lot of distributing. And you notice how we just kind of kept going across and making sure we hit everything as we went from left to right. All right, now we just need to start looking for like terms. So I've got a single x term with 6x. Then I have minus 18x, and I'm going across. That's an x squared. That's an x squared. There's no x. So 6x minus 18x is negative 12x. So I've taken care of those. Let me look at what else I've got. I've got a negative 63. I've got a positive 120, and I got a positive 51. So I did use my calculator here. I took my calculator out and I put in negative 63 plus 120 plus 51, and I got a positive 108. And then I have two terms left that are alike. 8x squared minus 2x squared is a positive 6x squared. And then I looked at my standard form. The largest exponent that I see is this 2. So I got to use that term first, 6x squared. The next biggest exponent is the 1. So that's a negative 12x. And then there's no exponent on that one. It's our constant. It always comes last. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you in class.